Good day, everybody. Steve Prziborowski here. Welcome to episode 18 of Reach for the Firefighter Badge. Episode 18, we're going to discuss how to properly present yourself during a firehouse visit. If you've never visited a firehouse before, or a fire station, depending on what the department calls it, most of us call them a firehouse because it's our second home. So that's going to be the term I'm going to use, but there is nothing wrong with using the term fire station as well, unless there's a purist out there that tells you to call it a firehouse. But hey, let's get going here. As a reminder, my two websites, code3firetraining.com and chabotfire.com, I have tons of free stuff on there to keep you busy for hours learning how. Number one, if you want to become a better firefighter candidate, please go to chabotfire.com. And then if you want to become a better firefighter in general and have that desire to promote up the ranks or just be the best you can be, check out code3firetraining.com. Lots of great stuff on there that I put. Next, the webinars obviously are based on two of the three books I've had published, The Future Firefighter's Preparation Guide and Reach for the Firefighter Badge, both available off my websites and both with lots of great information to help you be the best candidate you can be. So, a lot of times I get asked the question, why do I want to visit a firehouse? Or why should I visit a firehouse? Or do I even have to visit a firehouse? No, you don't have to do anything in life you don't want to do, but let's discuss why you should visit a firehouse. First of all, to find out more about the career of a firefighter. If you want to do something, you better find out about it. I mean, very rarely does it happen that someone, say, goes to college, picks a major, thinking they're going to maybe work in that major as their career when they get out of college, without, having done any research. I mean, yeah, I know it happens sometimes, but sadly, there's a lot of times where I see people graduate with certain degrees and then they get out of college and they either find out they can't get a job with that degree or they can get a job but they don't want that job. It's like, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. Well, then you should have planned a little better in your younger years. I don't know. I mean, sorry if I'm sounding harsh here, but planning is critical to our careers. So you got to do your homework and do your research. So get out to a firehouse. You want to find out more about the fire department and especially that fire department long before the hiring process begins. As we've discussed so far, the hiring process, consists of multiple events. You file your application. You may get to go to the written examination. If you pass that, maybe the oral interview, maybe the chief's interview, the background investigation, all these steps that lead up to the academy and then probation, and then hopefully a nice, long, healthy, happy career. That whole process can take at least 4 months in most departments, if not longer, sometimes a year or more, depending on just timing, budgets, and a lot of other things. Now, a lot of people tend to think that, okay, well, wow, I just saw the announcement today that Portland is testing for firefighters. So Portland's opening up, and don't go to the Portland website because I don't think they're testing right now. I'm just using them as a city. But some people go, well, I'm going to go to the website, and it looks like they're accepting applications from, say, July 1st through July 15th. So 2 weeks they're accepting applications. And then, of course, on the announcement, it says that the oral interviews will be like in maybe September or October. It's typical time format. Well, I know a lot of candidates, okay, I'll file my application, and then I'm make sure to get that ready. I got to prepare for the written test. And then, okay, well, my interviews say October 1st. Well, then I'll maybe start doing some station visits or firehouse visits in August or September. Well, newsflash, the time to visit firehouses is not a month, a day, a week, which a lot of people do, or a month or two before the interviews. Why? Because everybody's doing that. And you don't want to be like everybody. You want to be ahead of the pack. You want to be unique. Great candidates that are prepared properly have started long before the testing process. And I know there's people that go, well, I didn't know Portland was going to open up testing July 1st, so how could I have started preparing visiting firehouses? Okay, well, the cycle of life. A department will test at some point. So the point is, find out when they last tested, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The best time to visit a firehouse is when the test just ends. So let's say Portland takes applications, interviews in October, they hire whatever 25 candidates for their spring 2021 academy. And maybe they're not going to use that list again, they kill the list. Or maybe they hire a second batch, who knows. But if you didn't get hired off that list in Portland, the time to start visiting firehouses is as soon as they basically hire the people. And you may go, that's sort of counterintuitive because why would I visit a firehouse when they're not hiring? That's the point. because you want to be unique and by yourself, because very few take the time and effort to do that. Now, you can't do that for every department because it's just not time effective or efficient. But if there's departments out there that you really want to work for and you say didn't do that well in the process, which, I mean, hey, I had to take the city of San Jose's test 4 times before they offered me a job. Yeah, 4 times. I was already hired by my current department, but it's like sometimes you got to take a test multiple times. I took my current department's test a couple times as well too. Just that's the way it works because they test every year or two. But anyway, best time to visit that firehouse is when the testing process starts, because chances are it's going to be at least maybe a year or 2 or 3 before that next testing process. And then that way you've already got a chance to maybe start networking, building and maintaining relationships with people that you can go back to multiple times. So by the time the testing process starts again, you're already ready because you've already got your foot in the door, you know, meeting people, talking with people. And another thing, a lot of departments during the testing process shut down firehouse visits. And you may go, that's unfair. Well, they don't want to give anyone an unfair advantage. So they also don't want to have hundreds of thousands of people stopping by the firehouses every single day. Now, this was obviously before the coronavirus pandemic. Well, most departments have stopped firehouse visits, period, right now because of the fear of spreading anything or exposing anybody. So who knows where that's going to go. But anyway, let's assume the pandemic is behind us. Let's hope that's the case. And we can go back to firehouse visits. So it's a valuable way to obviously learn a lot about that department and get a chance to meet and greet with firefighters. You know, that's so much of the process right there. And especially not just firefighters, but newly hired firefighters. Don't get me wrong, the seasoned veterans can give you a lot of great experience. But the problem sometimes when you talk to the senior veterans, the experienced folks who've been on the job 20, 30, 40 years, they're great people to listen to and get advice from. But when it comes to the testing process, what they got hired with 20, 30, hell, even 10 years ago may be different than today. Because sometimes a new fire chief comes in or a new human resources director comes in, or maybe the union wants to try a different process or the administration wants to try a different process. So what was working 20 years ago may not be working today. So that's why you want to talk to all ranks and all age ranges of firefighters, but especially the newly hired ones, the ones that got hired in the last academy, because chances are what the department did last time may be the same. So those candidates are fresh in the game of going through the process. They can give you a great idea of what to expect in the process. So definitely some valuable information if you can visit a firehouse, not to mention the networking aspect. You know, you can ask questions of those that are actually doing the job. I mean, reading is good, but nothing beats talking to people in person. Again, assuming we can do that after the coronavirus pandemic slows down. If it ever does, let's hopefully try to remain positive. You can meet those that may be on your oral interview panel. Now, you'll never know who's on your oral interview panel, and this is the dangerous part of the process. And I say dangerous. A lot of times people think they need to be a volunteer to get a foot in the door and get hired by a department. Well, if I'm a volunteer firefighter, I got a better chance than maybe the average person that's not. That's true. Think about it. If you are a volunteer firefighter, for example, yeah, we know you, but that's the problem. We know you. Yeah, I always like to tell our volunteers, hey, instead of having maybe a 5% chance of getting the job or a 1% chance because you're competing with hundreds or thousands of people, as a volunteer, your odds probably gone up to about 50% or 50-50. But the problem is it's not a 100% guarantee, because the problem is we know you now. And after having worked with you, maybe we don't want to have you transition to that next step where we have to work with you on a 24/7, 365 basis. And I mean, I don't mean say anything personal or negative, but it's true. I know many departments across the country where there's a lot of volunteers, explorers, auxiliaries, whatever you call them, that have never been hired by their own department in a full-time position. And probably it's because of their personality or their ability to play nicely in the sandbox. So just like when you go to a firehouse, you run the risk or also the plus of meeting people that'll be on your oral board, which, don't get me wrong, when the fire department's testing and they're seeing hundreds of people come by the firehouses, you know, sometimes it's hard for us to remember everybody, unless those that really stick out in a really negative way or a really positive way. You know, so I think that's the key. Is I remember testing when I was taking over 50 tests, you know, it was not uncommon for me to stop by firehouses, and then like a week later in my interview, even though I just told you try not to wait a week before or your interview, but again, I'm sharing lessons from my own. It didn't hurt me, but again, do things earlier. But anyway, I remember visiting firehouses, and then next thing you know, a week later or 2 weeks later, that same person that talked to me at the firehouse is on the oral board. And you're like, wow, hey, good to see you again, Captain, or good to see you again, so-and-so. You know, sometimes remember you, sometimes they don't. But again, if you left a good mark, good impression, it can go into your favor versus if you went by the station and you left a really crappy impression, that can go against you. So be careful what you ask for. But it is a chance to meet people. And it's also a chance to not just meet those who have been hired, but also people that have been on previous oral boards. When I was what I encourage candidates to do, which I used to do, is when I stop by a fire station, is besides wanting to talk to new firefighters, I'd also say, has there anybody here that has sat on oral boards recently as a rater? And even if they're not at that station, I'd usually, hey, is there anybody at any other station that you'd suggest I go talk to? Just, you know, and you know what? Every department has those people that are that really enjoy talking to candidates. There's those that enjoy being on oral boards, and every department's got people that hate being on the oral boards. I mean, not hate it, but just don't. That's not their game. I enjoy doing that stuff. Not everyone does, but find those people that do enjoy those things and ask them, hey, what was the key points or consistencies of rock star candidates? What was some things of, you know, sucky candidates? You know, find out those higher level views that you can use maybe to help benefit yourself. You know, again, I mentioned networking, building, maintaining positive relationships with others who may assist you. The goal is not one and done. I mean, it's not just, you don't just, okay, I'm going to go to firehouse number 1 today, talk to A shift, check the box, I'm done. I don't have to go back again. Tomorrow I'll go to station 2 on the B shift and talk to them, box check, done. You know, don't get me wrong, it's good to visit many different firehouses, many different crews. The goal should be to visit different. It's nice to have a comfort with one crew, especially if you gel with them, but it's also nice to go to different stations. Maybe stations, firehouses that have different apparatus. Obviously, virtually every firehouse has at least an engine company in it, but some have truck companies, some have rescues, some have ambulances, some have battalion chiefs. Try to go to those different stations because they're all a different flavor. Just like a station high up in the hills, you know, I'll use an example. When I was a student firefighter with the Oakland Fire Department, I was down in the flatlands riding along on engines that ran 10 plus calls a day. I mean, yeah, 10 plus calls a day on an engine. It was great. But then Oakland also had a station up on the top of the hill that ran 1 call every 3 days. Yeah, I'm not 1 call every 3 days, whereas we'd run 10 a day down in the flatlands, that station, or a couple of them up in the hills. The bell wouldn't even go off on the average every, you know, 2 days in a row. It could be 3 days on the average between the next call. Just was not a high volume of calls up in the hills. I'm not saying don't visit those slow stations, because it's good to get a perspective of different types of stations and crews, but the folks usually at those very slow stations tend to be there for a reason, and there's nothing wrong with that. And when I say a reason, it's usually the more veteran crews that usually just don't want to be in the thick of it, you know, running calls with all the gung-ho folks. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's, you know, it's a benefit to get around different crews, different station. Now, before your visit, do your own homework, do your own research on the fire department website, on the city website about the city. Because when you go there, you don't want to waste the firefighters' time. And I say waste the time is you don't want to go in asking dumb questions like, how many firehouses do you have? How many firefighters do you have? What's the population of the city? What's the square miles of the city? What are the city demographics? You know, what is the major employers of the city? You know, what's the projected growth? Is there any future stations planned? What's the department's budget? What's the city's budget? What's the fire chief's name? Those are all questions you need to have answered. But the point is, you're wasting the firefighter's time. Instead, go to the fire department website, the city website, especially the city website that has the budget. Every city has to publish their budget on their website, transparent government. Within that city budget is the fire department budget. Within that fire department budget, like every other city's budget, is how many budgeted positions, typically chief's name, any plans for the future, at least in the next year or two, for growth, any purchasing of apparatus, rebuilding of stations, closing of stations, you know, capital purchases, you know, wages, benefits, all that stuff is in the city budget. That city budget contains tons of valuable information, as well as usually the first part of the city budget is also the demographics of the city. You know, city of Acme, California has X amount of population, square miles of this, the major employers are this, you know, revenues are this, expenditures are this. You do that homework on your own, and yeah, you got to do that for every department you test for. You don't have to, But the more you can do that, the better prepared you are to answer the questions. Answer questions not just in your interviews, but also when you go to the firehouses, because the firefighters are going to test you to see if you've actually done your homework. Know where you're going before you go there. I mean, for most of us, we probably know where our local firehouse is, but if you don't, GTS, Google that stuff. Get on the internet and go to your city's website. Most fire departments list out the locations of their firehouses, so know where you're going in advance. Do you have to schedule a ride? I mean, not ride-along. We'll talk about ride-alongs in the next episode. Do you have to schedule a visit or not? Many departments on their website, it says, please schedule a visit with a fire crew. And they do that because they're trying to help you, help you, and more importantly, help the crew prepare. Because like I mentioned, when I was a student firefighter in Oakland running 10 calls a day, it was not uncommon to have the firehouse empty a lot of times. So you go to the firehouse and you bring some nice dessert, maybe some ice cream that's melting, and then it's like, hell, no one's here. Well, I'll just wait for a little bit. You don't know if they're going to come back in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours. Maybe they're out on an all-day training event. Maybe they're out on calls. That's why some departments, like I said, go to the website first and see if they require you to, schedule a visit. And it also helps the crew plan too, because I'm sorry, you got to look for the crew too. It's not all about you. The crew has a day to plan. Most firefighters every day, besides running calls, have to do other things like training, fire prevention inspections, public education details. And last thing sometimes they want when they're ready to go out the door to get some training done is, well, hi, I'm Steve Prziborowski. I want to be a firefighter. Can you guys, help me out here for about an hour or so and answer some questions? Stupid questions, fire number. And then of course the crew's like, well, we're actually going to go out and do some training right now. Then of course, but maybe you brought some ice cream or a nice cake, because maybe you actually are smart enough to do that. Well, hell, we'll take your dessert though, and can you come back maybe at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock? Oh, or next week? Oh, well, no, I'm going on vacation next week. Well, hey, call me next week. If you don't even have any dessert, odds are they're probably going to say, well, sorry, dude, we're busy. Can you come back? And they're not being mean. They just have things to do, but know where you're going. Yeah, you can stop by and just unannounced knock. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but make sure you're doing it during daytime hours. Don't do that at 10 o'clock at night. Don't do it during usually probably 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. because that's usually dinner time. Don't do it between typically 11:30 and 1 o'clock because that's probably lunchtime. Don't do it before pretty much 9 o'clock in the morning because that's typically time when crews are waking up or getting on duty or getting their rigs checked out, getting their breakfast, planning the day. So usually it's a little morning window from like maybe 9 to 11 and maybe about like 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Not a lot of time, but it is what it is. That's why if you can research the department and look on their website, and if it states on the website, schedule it. And if it doesn't state that, and if there's a phone number some departments list phone numbers for the firehouses. Many departments don't. And the reason why is they don't want people in an emergency calling the 7-digit firehouse number because I mentioned earlier, my house is on fire. And then of course that crew is not there and there's usually no answering machines. And then it's like, or if there is an answering machine, my house is on fire, come 356 Main Street. And then the poor people are sitting there, the house fire's getting worse. You know where I'm going with it. That's why I call 911 emergency. But sometimes you may find that information on the website. Schedule it if needed, as I mentioned. If not, nothing says you can't knock on the door, but just be prepared you may get kicked away. So you better have plan B and plan C. Or the crew may say, hey, you know what, we're going out for training all day. Go stop by station 6 on whatever. And you know what? Don't be the one that says, oh, we're station 6. Again, research the fire department, because if they do say go stop by station 6, you should already have that information. Then you go, oh, you mean station 6? That's at 106 Johnson Street, right? Yes. Great job. And then you know what? If you do that, you're showing that you have your act together. And then the captain may say, you know what? Hey, go talk to my buddy. He's on duty today, Captain so-and-so. He'll help you out. Tell him I sent you. But again, don't come with the handout saying, give me all the answers. You got to prepare. What to bring? Positive can-do attitude. I mean, that's in every phase of the process. Hell, that's just life in general. You should have a positive can-do attitude with a smile on your face, enthusiasm, passion, professional demeanor. I enjoy hard rock, heavy metal music. I enjoy sports. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy a lot of things off duty. If I was going to do station visits, I wouldn't wear my Slayer or my Metallica or my Megadeth t-shirts to a station visit. Not that there's not a lot of firefighters. There's a lot of firefighters that like hard rock and heavy metal music, just like there's a lot of firefighters that like rap music, hip hop music, country music, no music, pop music, soft rock, yacht rock, classic. The point is professional demeanor, if nothing else. No one says you have to wear a suit to a station visit, especially if it's like today, 90 degrees out here. But you should have like some casual attire that's professional, like maybe like a polo shirt. Maybe you don't have to wear a tie. I mean, it doesn't hurt to wear a tie, but again, you don't have to necessarily overdress. But if you want to maybe stand out in a unique way, nothing says you can't look professional or shouldn't look professional. But again, I would say at least maybe try to have respectable looking jeans on, or khaki pants, polo shirt. If you do wear a t-shirt, maybe a plain t-shirt that just looks at least professional, not something that's just potentially offensive. Especially, maybe clean up the facial hair. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful or biased or discriminatory, but most departments do not allow you to wear a beard or a goatee on the job. I mean, you may see, trust me, you'll see some departments because of the city, the location. Yeah, they may allow firefighters to have goatees and beards, but most don't, and or ponytails. Look the part of what you want to be. Bring a pen and paper, something to write with. Now, there's nothing wrong with bringing your phone to write in, your iPad or your computer, but we're still in a really weird phase of life where, like when I'm in front of my class at the college, for example, I mean, I know students, some of them bring their computers, some of them have their iPads, some of them have their phones, and I'm looking out as I'm talking and just trying to discuss things and trying to engage them, and maybe it's just my boring delivery, I don't know, or my old age, but I see a lot of them sometimes on their phones, and I'm wondering, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Are they taking notes? I hope so, but maybe they're not taking notes, or they just surf the internet, or maybe I suggested like, hey, go to fireengineering.com after class, and maybe they're doing it in class. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. You can't go wrong with old school pad and paper just to be able to take notes, because it looks like it, because at least it shows you're giving them the time and energy and effort that they deserve. So, but something to take notes on, because, and there's nothing worse than saying, I love it when people stop by the firehouse and they're like 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in, or they're meeting with me, and then they're just sort of sitting there doing this, just no notes, nothing, and they're just, oh, and then an epiphany. Oh shit, Chief, can I go out to my car and get a pad of paper and pen to write on? Yeah, sure, I'll wait for a couple of minutes. I was in the middle of a nice thought that I was rolling with, but yeah, go for it. I know it's all about you. Or even worse, Chief, can I borrow your pen and can I borrow some paper to write on? No, it's not my job to provide that to you. Don't be that person. Be prepared, come prepared, be professional. Housewarming gift, I mentioned earlier, like a dessert. This is an interesting time right now. Take away the coronavirus pandemic we're dealing with, and when we're able to do firehouse visits again. And let me quickly get off on that. Even during the pandemic, while most departments are not allowing firehouse visits, I've seen some departments actually do virtual firehouse visits where they're actually taking you on a tour around a firehouse, talking with firefighters. And we just finished, we're currently in a hiring process right now. And even though we didn't allow station visits, we had a lot of candidates that were smart enough to call up our human resources, what we call personnel services department, and ask a question. Your website says that there's no station visits right now. We understand that. But is there someone I can call up to and talk to on the department? And they didn't know anybody in the department. Obviously, we know someone, reach out, but we had one of our personnel services technicians or management analysts. She goes, hey, Chief, she goes, is there anybody in the training division that would be happy to talk to candidates? And I'm like, sure, I'd be happy to. And my captain, my BC, my firefighter. So those were resourceful candidates. They couldn't visit a firehouse, but they were taking the time to talk to firefighters that work for the department. And here's a good example. Even if you live 5 states away or across the country, oh, I can't do a station visit even during normal times because I can't get out here. Well, nothing says you can't call up a firehouse again. If you look on the website and it says firehouse or station number 1, here's the number. Yeah, hi, so-and-so. Hi, Captain Jones. My name's Steve Prziborowski. I'm from California. I realize you're in Florida right now. I'm actually in your hiring process right now. I've got an interview scheduled in, say, I don't know, 2 months from now. I can't fly out there to do a firehouse visit. Is there any chance I can maybe pick your brain on the phone, or maybe someone on your crew, or call you back at a better time just to get some more information on the department? I've done some research on the website. I've done some research on the internet, but I'd love to be able to talk to at least one firefighter just to find out what you like about your department, where you think the department's going, some any words of advice you'd have for me. What do you think that captain that you talk to all the way across the country is going to say? Hell no. Slam that phone down. Heck no. They're going to usually say, huh, no, you know what? Right now is not a good time because, like I said, we're going out training here shortly, but can you call me back? Hey, maybe in about 3 hours, or maybe can I get your, phone number back and I'll call you back when we're ready? I mean, you never know. I mean, if they feel there's potential in you that you could be a good candidate for their department, they'll go out of their way to help you out. But again, back to a housewarming gift. If you are going to an in-person visit, the old school method used to be sometimes bring dessert, bring maybe ice cream, bring homemade chocolate chip cookies as opposed to store-bought chocolate chip cookies. If you're bringing ice cream, bring the good stuff, not the bad stuff. I remember Captain Bob Smith, who does a lot of stuff for firefighter preparation. I remember his thing. He goes, when he worked at Hayward Fire, when all the guys used to bring the bricks. The bricks were like the old Safeway Lucerne ice cream. I don't even know if they still make that. He goes, don't bring those bricks because we'd have a competition in the back of the firehouse of how far we could chuck those bricks like footballs. You go, basically instead bring the round stuff, which is like usually the better stuff, the dryers and other things. But the point was, it's like try to bring at least decent stuff. Don't kill yourself. Don't go broke doing it, but show some. It's the thought that counts. Don't get me wrong. We're not greedy. We're the ones that should be buying you the stuff. It's just weird how that works. But on the flip side, it doesn't hurt to bring a gift. But when you bring your gift, make sure you do your homework. Like Los Angeles Fire Department, Station 27 down sort of West Hollywood area. LA Fire Station 27 at one point had like 24 firefighters on duty. 24 on duty. So the last thing you'd want to do, because it would show you're unprepared and clueless, is get to that firehouse and bring this little tube of 1 bucket of Dryer's vanilla ice cream and say, hey, can I get some assistance? I'm preparing to be a firefighter with the LA Fire Department. Can I pick your brain? And here's some dessert if I can offer that to you. I mean, that's maybe for the engine company or the truck company combined if you're lucky, if they're on a diet. What about the other 20 firefighters? So, well, how would I know there's 24 on duty, Steve, versus 3 or 4, which are typically more common? Go to the website. Most department websites have staffing levels. Or even if they don't say how many people on duty, if all they say is firehouse number 1 has engine 1 and that's it, odds are it's simply 2 people, 3 people, or 4 people in most departments. Or if they say engine, truck, and battalion, well, the battalion chief's usually 1 person. The engine, as I said, is usually 2, 3, or 4. The truck company could be 2, 3, 4, 5 people. So do the math. Always better to have a little bit more. And in today's world, we're also trying to eat more healthy. We're trying to be more healthy because we recognize that stress, heart-related disease, cardiovascular disease is not just a bad thing nationwide. It's the number 1 killer of firefighters. So we are trying to be healthy. So if there's things you can do healthy, maybe providing fruit salad, those I think are probably, most crews should be appreciative of anything. If they're not, shame on them. But try to maybe think health conscious stuff. That's like in the morning, if you bring donuts because you're scheduled to be there in the morning, donuts or energy rings or circles of death, depending on what you call them, versus bagels. But then there's people that say, well, the bagels are carbs. You can't win for losing. The goal is try to at least have something. And you know what? If you're scheduling a visit in advance because you can do so on the website or by calling the station, ask the captain you're scheduling it with. Hey, Cap, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you guys at 9 o'clock next week on Thursday. Make sure you confirm the date and time. I would like to bring you guys something. Can I bring you some dessert? Can I bring you some pastries? Can I bring you some fruit? Can I bring you some coffee? Can I bring you some whatever? Again, you don't have to do that. But if you offer that, that's so much right there in your favor. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, a good captain is going to say, no, thank you. You don't have to. We appreciate the offer. Don't even bother, kid. And then it doesn't hurt for you to, before you reject it, say, come on, I'd like to at least do it. I know I don't have to, but if I was to bring something against your will, what would be most appropriate? And again, they may still say, don't worry about it, kid. Or, well, if you're saying it that way, but here's the challenge. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You show up at the firehouse following instructions of not bringing anything, and then you knock on the door here, and then, of course, the firefighter that you never talked to before, hey, can I help you? Yeah, hi, I'm here to see Captain Jones. I have a station visit, and we're going to discuss becoming a firefighter. And of course, you got the firefighter who's looking at you, you've never met before, doing one of these at you, which, we're that way, unfortunately, sometimes. We eat our own. Hey kid, didn't bring any dessert, and we're gonna bust, we're gonna bust your chops a little bit, as they say. But it's like, hey kid, where's your dessert? Well, captain said not to bring one. Well, that's the captain. We're the firefighters. We got to work with you. He's the boss or she's the boss. You got to learn from us. You should be, next time you visit a firehouse, don't come empty handed. Now you got conflicting orders. You're like, oh man, I can't win for losing. That's why, again, it's always better to at least have something. But even then, even if you have something, you're going to get your chops busted because of something else. And there's always going to be one good cop, bad cop at every firehouse. There's always going to be someone says, oh, you brought donuts. Awesome. And then you're going to get the next guy. Oh, donuts. Great. Just what I need. That'll help my weight loss program. God, kid, you should have brought some healthy stuff. And then, of course, you got the other guy. Oh, don't worry about him. You're stuck in the middle, and don't get wrapped around that stuff. Please don't get wrapped around the axle, because they're testing you, because they want to see if they can work with you. And how are you going to handle it? Do you have thick skin? Do you have thin skin? Do you snap? Do you have, how do you handle stress? It sucks, but that's how we do team building and team bonding. It's just like they're going to ask you questions. As soon as you sit down, trust me, someone's going to say out of the blue, hey, what's your favorite football team? And in the Bay Area here, we have the Oakland Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers, but the Oakland Raiders are moving to Las Vegas. But right now, I guess we had. So a year ago, we had 2 football teams. And I remember some of these things when people came by the firehouse. You get a candidate, and of course, you get a firefighter who just loves messing with people. And I get it, but it's just like, don't jam the kids up, and I say kids, I don't mean to be disrespectful age. The kids could be anywhere from 18 years old to 50 years old, because they want to be firefighters. But you get that one firefighter, hey, what's your favorite football team? When you're asked what's your favorite sports team or type of music or type of whatever, there's no right answer. It's a game. It's a setup. You can't win. So when you say, oh yeah, my favorite football team is the Raiders, guess what the guy or the gal in the back over here is now waiting for? Because that one person that asked you the question, oh yeah, Raiders rule. And of course, that one person takes a minute or two. What do you got against the 49ers? And then, of course, you're screwed. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, what do you got against the 49ers, you friggin' Raiders whatever fan? Uh-oh, now I'm stuck in the middle. Yeah, because you played the game. And you can't win the game. So don't get emotionally stressed over it or snap, or even worse, change your side. Well, I like the 49ers too. And then, of course, now what the Raiders guy got to do? What do you got against the Raiders? So you're one of those fair weather fans, huh? You just go, whatever the way the wind's blowing? Huh, okay, one of those people. Oh, man, you're screwed. So the point is, but here's the thing. You can't just shut your mouth and say nothing, because that doesn't help you either. You got to be able to roll with the punches, be able to have a good attitude, have a great sense of humor, and be able to just roll with it and realize people are going to mess with you. But again, housewarming gift you can't go wrong with. I touched on questions to ask. What questions should you ask the fire department? Again, you should have already done your homework and research on the basic questions. To me, these questions are above and beyond. These are the medium, the high level, the above and beyond questions that can't be answered on the internet, that can't be answered on the website. Plus, a lot of fire department websites and city websites are out of date. So your key is, again, getting the facts and the figures, number of stations, number of personnel, blah, 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 from the website, and now validate those facts. And I'll talk about that in a second. But to me, these are good questions. So how does your fire department, let's say we're in San Jose, how does your fire department differ from the other departments around the area? We're not asking to slam other departments, but get some feedback. Because you may be testing for those other departments at some point. It's not, think about it. This ain't just testing for San Jose right now. You hope to get hired here while you're in the San Jose Firehouse, but you may be testing with the next door neighboring departments, Palo Alto, Milpitas, Gilroy. So this is long-term planning here, because again, it's going to take you multiple tests. So, hey, how does your fire department differ from others? Good, bad, or indifferent? See what they love about their fire department, what they hate about their fire department. Ask that question. What do you like about your department? Everyone's got an opinion. Get their opinions. Now, you may hear a lot of people, especially in tough economic times like we're in right now, and especially if departments are going through layoffs like some are going to be going through because of the lack of tax revenues, you may have some bitter firefighters. I'm not saying don't take a job or don't do the interview, but if you may see a lot of bitterness. Don't get sucked into that bitterness. Just let them talk. Be a good listener. Obviously you should be listening more than you're talking. Hey, what do you like about your fire department? What do you dislike about the fire department? What do you like about the community, the city, the jurisdiction? What do you dislike about the community? You know, you'd be amazed. Most people will have a good edit feature and not be disrespectful of things, but you'll get some that have never met you before and will start rattling off crap that you're going, holy crap, I'm just amazed they're talking this much crap. Hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Take notes. This is good education for you. Other questions? If they don't offer it, would it be possible to get a tour of the firehouse and the apparatus? Now, some departments don't want to give a tour of the firehouse. I mean, after 9/11, there was really a lot of fear about having people even in the firehouse for fear of, you know, whatever covert activities, because people were spying on us. And I get that. I totally get that, because unfortunately there are some people out there with bad intentions. But usually, again, if you come there looking professional, that you're not trying to, and I know you can't judge a book by its cover, because you can't just say, well, that's not a criminal because they don't look like that. Well, we all know by now that criminals can look like anything. You know, we can't stereotype. We shouldn't stereotype. So again, but if you look like at least you have a professional atmosphere, if you're especially coming in with your resume, coming in, letting them know that, listen, I'm preparing for your test. I'm currently in the testing process for Oakland right now. I've taken about 5 or 10 tests so far, you know, Fresno, Bakersfield, Modesto, Salinas, whatever departments. If they, and I'm going to whatever, Chabot College right now, taking my fire class. So I've got my EMT. If they know you're in the I guess, game, they got a better chance to give you more flexibility and latitude, I guess, around the station, versus if you come to the station and I don't know, if I came with my Slayer shirt on and I look like I hadn't, I don't know, showered in a month or so, and I had a huge beard on, and I like, hey, show me the firehouse. I want to be a fireman. Not too professional. You're probably not going to get too far, nothing personal. But the point is, ask the question, because again, you may get valuable exposure to a lot of different things. And again, it opens up different doors as while you're walking around the firehouse. Hey, what's that used for? Hey, what's that called? Or especially when you're looking at the apparatus. Hey, what's the difference between that rig and that rig? Or can I see what's inside the compartments? Ask questions. That, I mean, it's a great way to get exposure. You know, and other questions. What do you think this fire department does well? Because all of us think we do great at whatever it is, but hear it in their words. What do you do well? What could you improve upon? Because every department, every person, every company, every business always has things they do well, typically, and things they could improve upon. Get to hear the flavor. Now, again, your goal is not just to stop at one firehouse. You're hopefully stopping at multiple firehouses, different crews of people, and throughout the process, you're hopefully getting different opinions, and you're looking for the most common opinions. When you hear 5 people all say the fire department does well at public education and serving the community, that's probably a good thing. And then it's something you can share in the interview process. Yes, while talking to multiple firefighters, it seems like what this department does well is this. And because that's a question we may ask you in the interview. What do we do well? Well, I don't know. I don't work for the department. Well, you can still research the department and talk to people. Just like we may ask you, what can we improve upon? Not because we want you to slam us, but maybe you could be that catalyst for change. Even as a brand new firefighter, never say never. You know, and of course, do you have any advice for me as an aspiring firefighter? Hey, can I show you my resume? Do you have any suggestions? This is the classes I'm taking. I'm going to the mission college. Anything else I should do based on your experience in the past? Ask them questions. You know, ask them questions like, what does your fire department typically look for in firefighters? And again, everyone's got a different opinion there. But just, you know, this is showing the fire crew that you're not wasting their time. You know, what does the fire department hiring process looks like? Yeah, that information is usually on the job announcement. But again, talk to those that have done it before. Now, don't expect all the answers, because if someone's been on the job for 25 years, they may say, well, I don't know, I had to go through a written test and a physical ability and oral interview, but that was like 25 years ago, so I don't know what we're doing today. And a lot of firefighters may not know what they're doing today, because maybe the rookies don't work at that station, maybe they don't care. I don't know, maybe they just don't pay attention. Many people just work and 8 to 8 out the gate and don't get engaged or give a shit. That's okay, just talk to people. You know, touched on this one, any advice as an aspiring firefighter. I've had it, like I shared earlier, you've done your homework. Now let them know. I've had a chance to spend a lot of time on your department website. I realize that sometimes information on a website can change. Can I validate the following? Number of firehouses. I see in your website, your number of firehouses is 11. Is that still correct? And you may go, well, that's a no-brainer. No, it's not. 11 is not a big deal, but let's say Los Angeles City Fire or Los Angeles County. Los Angeles City has over 100 firehouses. Los Angeles County, I think, has like almost 200 firehouses. If you walk to any firehouse in any of those departments and knock on the door and just, okay, pop quiz, how many firehouses do you have? I bet you, in all honesty, the average firefighter for those big departments have no freaking clue. I mean, I don't know how you keep it up, because that may change daily, especially if there's budget cuts. Sometimes there's blackouts or brownouts, meaning stations that are permanently closed or partially closed on a temporary basis due to lack of budget. So those things can change. So don't, because you could go to 3 LA County firehouses, I bet you get 3 different stations. You get one person that says, I don't know, I think we got like 200, I don't know, and someone else going, well, over 100. And then somebody else, well, I think it's 171 or maybe 174. I can't remember. Go to the website, kid. But again, you're not wasting their time. Obviously, in smaller departments, it's a lot easier because the numbers are easier to remember and they don't change. But validate the information. Yeah, your department website says you have about 550 personnel. Is that about accurate? And again, the average firefighter, engineer, captain doesn't keep up on that stuff. They got enough stuff to keep up on. Yeah, that sounds about right, kid. Fire department budget. Again, the average firehouse personnel crew does not probably stay on top of the budget. It's not their job. We in administration stay up on the budget because that is our job. I mean, it's everybody's job, and we try to educate all ranks on our budget so they can talk in an educated manner to anyone that comes up to them. But anyway, I see your fire department for this coming year is 130 million. Does that sound about accurate? Okay, yeah. Or what are your revenue sources? Like in my department, our revenue sources, we're not a city department. We are more of a special district, and there's different types of fire departments out there. And that's why you got to do your homework. There's sometimes city fire departments, county fire departments, state fire departments, private fire departments. There are some county fire departments that don't serve any cities. There's some that serve cities and unincorporated areas. There's some that just serve unincorporated areas. There's no wrong, there's no right, but understand where the department serves. Understand where the money comes from. Like in my department, most of our budget is from property taxes. Well, from a typical city budget, a fire department is not typically made up of property taxes come in, but usually sales taxes. Ours come from contracts as well too. And again, they're not right or they're not wrong. It's just knowing what you're getting into. Know the staffing numbers. Some departments put those on the website. Sometimes they don't. But again, do they staff 2 on an engine, 3 on an engine? And if so, what rank? Is it a captain? Is it a lieutenant as the officer? Is it an engineer, a driver, or just a firefighter driving it? Is it a firefighter that's riding backwards or facing forwards, depending on the type of cab? Other questions, again, these are things you've already hopefully made notes on and now coming to validate. Number of engines, trucks, rescues, battalion chiefs, command staff, people on duty every single day. A shift has, and if A shift working today has 66 people on duty of different ranks, so does B shift tomorrow, so does C shift. That's how it works. Same amount of people on duty each day, typically. Type of schedule worked. Do you work 24 on, 48 off? Do you work 48 on, 96 off? Do you work 24 on, 72 off? Do you work, 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 4 days off? There's no right, there's no wrong, but hey, the website shows you work a 48-96 schedule with A, B, and C shift or A, B, C platoon. Is that correct? Yeah. Again, you shouldn't care about what schedule, because any schedule is better than no schedule being a firefighter, at least in my opinion. But know what you're getting into. By doing this, it shows you've attempted to do your homework and you're not just asking for the answers to the test. That's, I think, the key. I would also ask the crews, what does the future of the fire department look like? Now, about 12 years ago, in 2008, when we hit our economic downturn, which is nothing compared to the one where I think we're faced with right now. Don't mean to be negative or pessimistic, just realistic. But back in 2008, when we had cities going bankrupt, like the city of Stockton going bankrupt, city of San Bernardino in California going bankrupt, when a city goes bankrupt, it pretty much makes their union contracts null and void. Stockton used to have 4 on engine companies, 5 on trucks. Union contract, the city went bankrupt. They were struggling with money. They canceled their union contracts. They don't have to staff 4 on engine anymore. They went to 3 on the engines. They went to 4 on the trucks. They, I think, shut down the truck. They laid off like 45 people because their union contract was no longer legal, I guess, because the city was bankrupt. They were in dire straits. Good, bad, or indifferent. All obviously bad. But if you went to Stockton back in '08 or '09 without a clue of the bankruptcy, hey, what's the future of this fire department? You're going to probably hear most of the firefighters say, it sucks. I'm looking at retiring early. We're telling our guys in the job to go somewhere else where it's better because this is a sinking ship that's not going to turn around. I mean, you probably would hear that in Stockton '08, '09, '10. Well, you look at Stockton now. I mean, they've righted the ship. They've done some hiring, but they're still struggling with money. I mean, it's a fact. Revenues are challenging in every city pretty much across the country, especially with sales taxes when no one's able to shop in stores or do any purchasing, you know, and property tax when people can't pay their property taxes because of hardships of not working. So ask the questions there. Now, again, you're going to get different opinions from everybody. And what a firefighter or engineer or captain says is maybe different from what the chiefs say. And that's not meant disrespectful. I'm not better than the firefighters, engineers, captains. They're not better than me. We're all here to support each other to ultimately have them do the best service they can for our customers that call 911 or knock on the firehouse door. But ask the questions. You know, I also shared earlier, hey, is there any other firehouses or personnel in, you know, the rest of the city or department that I should specifically make the time to visit? This is a good question because you may find that one crew that is just, you know, not into it. Hey, it happens. I just remember, you know, sometimes you have, most crews are really into helping people, and every now and then you get a crew that's just miserable as hell. But know when to say when. Maybe that visit you're going, you know what, this, I better just cut my losses here and go to the next station. Don't give up on the department. You probably just found some, whatever, miserable folks. It happens. Every department's got miserable folks. But anyway, you may find those diamonds in the rough. Even if candidates didn't ask me when I was at the firehouse, if I saw promise or hope in a candidate, I'd usually be the first to say, hey, you know what, we got to go do some training now, but you know, here's my phone number, here's my email address, call me if I can be of assistance. And hey, by the way, you visit any other firehouses? Then I'd hear, oh yeah, I'm going to see so-and-so, I've got an appointment with this tomorrow. I mean, because again, we're testing you. And I'd say, hey, have you ran into or heard about Captain so-and-so or firefighter so-and-so? Huh? Why don't you give them a call? They work at this station on this shift here. I think they'd be a good resource for you. And I usually say that because I know they've sat on recent oral boards maybe, or they are like me and they enjoy talking to people and helping people, or they just have something valuable to offer. Doesn't mean that you can't answer the question, ask the question too, because again, you need to find the right people to make sure you're spending your time wisely with. I've touched, I think, for the most part on questions not to ask. Again, this is stuff you should have had it figured out beforehand. Now, it's okay to validate those questions, meaning, hey, on the website, I saw this information. Can I just validate it as I share it? Website says you've got 15 firehouses. Is that still correct? Yes. Okay. Website says you've got 378 personnel. Is that correct? Oh, yeah, that sounds about right. It says you've got 1 fire chief, 2 deputies, 3 assistant chiefs, 12 battalion chiefs, 66 captains, 66 engineers, 66 firefighters. Does that sound about right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're about right. Okay. You know, what are the wages, benefits, working schedule? Again, I shared earlier, it's okay to say, hey, on the website, I saw you worked 48.96. Is that what you worked today? Or, I mean, again, you should be the first to say, I don't care what shift, I'm happy to work any shift, as you should be. But the wages, benefits, and work schedule should be on the job announcement that was posted before you even applied. If you go into a firehouse, all right, I know I get to work 10 days a month, right? Awesome. What's my starting pay going to be? How many days off do I get? How much vacation do I get? How many sick days do I get? Okay, why are you getting into this? Are you getting in it for those reasons? I hope not. Some people do, but why are, you know, to me, those shouldn't matter. When I was getting hired as a firefighter, that was not my deciding factor. I mean, I know I wanted a full-time job because I needed a job and I needed benefits, but I also knew, but no matter where I got hired, it would be probably decent pay. I would probably still have to work a second job like most firefighters do. They're going to provide me healthcare benefits like pretty much every department does, and I'd probably get some form of pension. Okay. I honestly couldn't tell you the difference between all the medical benefits or pension benefits. So don't ask those questions. I just don't want you to come in thinking you're doing it for, giving the impression you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Again, the city should announce that on the job flyer and go back to the Human Resources website, because if you go to any city's or county or state's Human Resources website for all their positions, so you got the city of Oakland, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of employees Oakland has citywide, you know, fire, police, library, public works, parks and recreation, whatever city employees they have. But each of those city positions, fire chief, assistant, deputy, battalion, down to firefighter, police officer, all the way up to police chief, so forth. All those positions have to, on the website by law, at least I'm aware of in California, I may be ignorant, but at least I thought it was a law, that transparent California, that you have to publish that stuff. It can't be a secret. So the salaries of everyone in the city are on the website, just like what their benefit packages are. So again, all that stuff's on the website. Don't waste the firefighters' time. Again, stuff you should find on the website. Now, let's say the department's in between fire chiefs. Again, you've done your homework because you see, like in Oakland, okay, looks like Darren White's retired because he's moving to another department. Is Melinda Drayton deputy chief? Is she the acting fire chief right now? Okay, well, that should be on their website right now, or you should be able to Google to see who the interim Oakland fire chief is. Doesn't mean that she's going to get the job or stay as the interim, but it's okay to go in the interview panel. It's like, okay, it looks like on your website that Chief White just retired to go to San Rafael, and it looks like Chief Drayton is now the interim fire chief. Do you know what the plans are of the fire chief process? And again, the firefighters may not have a clue because sometimes that information is not even public yet, let alone available yet. But again, it doesn't hurt to at least show them what you know. Tell us what you know. You know, what is your population, square miles, demographics? Again, that's stuff you can find off the city website, especially the city budget. Get that information down. Now, most departments don't ask you specific questions. I've never heard of a department saying, okay, quick, how many fire stations do we have? What's the name of the fire chief? All right, what's our population? What's our square miles? What's our demographics? How many, this do we have? How many trucks do we have? How many staff? We don't ask you their questions. Number one, because there's finite answers. And let's say this, even if there is a finite answer, like, okay, the chief is Mike Smith. Or let's say this, Steve Prziborowski. Okay, so if someone doesn't know the chief's name, should that mean we don't hire them? Well, they didn't do their homework, Steve. They didn't do the research. Okay, does that mean they're going to be a crappy fire candidate? Not necessarily. They could still be a great person. Can I teach them the name of the fire chief? Yeah. Or let's say they nail my name, Steve Prziborowski. Does that make them any better than anybody else? Or, well, Steve Prziborowski, oh, you butchered the chief's name. You're not getting anything. I'm not finding anything out about that candidate. Yeah, they did their homework and research, but to what degree? Just like, how many fire stations we have? 15. All right, they did their homework. Most oral boards are going to more get into questions that are not finite, but more bigger picture, to get into your head and your thought process. Tell us what you know about the city. Tell us what you know about the fire department. And that's when you can talk about these things. Just don't make it sound like you're reading off the website because, oh yeah, the city of San Jose has 35 fire stations, approximately 700 firefighters. The fire chief is Robert Sapien. There's so many engines, so many trucks, so many battalion chiefs. That's not what the oral board wants to hear, because it looks like you're regurgitating something you just read and studied. No, say it in your own words, paraphrase it and sell it. Don't ask how many people you plan to hire, because if it's not on the job announcement, and it's definitely not in the budget, because those would be in the budget of the job announcement if they are, the firefighters probably don't know. You're going to hear, I don't know. Or let's say they do say, well, we're going to hire 10. All right, they're going to hire 10. Okay, maybe not. Until the academy starts, you don't know. I've seen times where the chief said, we are hiring 10. So everyone knew they were hiring 10, for example. And then all of a sudden, budget crisis hits and we're hiring 2. Things can change. Money can change. So you know what? Just don't waste their time. When you're leaving, thank them for their time. Obviously, if the vibe is good, you got to have good people skills to realize when it's time just to beat feet. Or if the vibe is good, if you feel there's a connection there and they haven't asked you, because again, there's sometimes if they like you, they may say, hey, feel free to come back anytime. Here's our card, or here's my number, here's my email address, whatever else. But if they don't do that, you've got to have such great people skills where you go, you know what? I think this went pretty well. Is there a chance maybe I could stop by in the future? I do want to visit some other firehouses to get a flavor of the department, different areas of the town and everything else. I do want to see the truck company that's over at Station 3. I do want to see the fireboat over here. I want to see one of the ambulances. But once I get that done, is there a chance I could maybe come back in the future for another visit? Could I maybe do a ride along, or maybe a mock oral interview, or just something, just to be able to, keep a connection, so to speak? What's the worst they could say? Nope, sorry. Door slammed, have a nice day. They're not going to do that. They may be very dodgy about it, and then they just say, hey, you know what, no big deal. Hey, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And they may be testing you. You never know. So don't take it personal, but it doesn't hurt to ask if you think it's okay. But closing with this, remember that visiting the firehouse is the right thing to do, and it can help you tremendously. I don't know of any departments that ask in the oral interview, how many stations did you visit? Which firehouses did you visit? We don't ask those questions, but let's flip it around. If we do ask you, why do you want to work for this department? Or the most common question, how have you prepared for the interview and the job and the career? Besides your education, training, experience, throw it out there that I've had a chance to visit a number of your firehouses. I've had a chance to meet up with different crews on different shifts, different types of apparatus around the city, so I could get a flavor of what goes on in this department. And why I really want to be a firefighter for your department is that it seems like every firehouse I stop into, there is nothing but passion, enthusiasm, and love for this fire department and this community. I mean, I want to be a part of something like that. It seems like there's great teamwork, great camaraderie, and I don't see that. I've done a lot of I've tested for a lot of other departments, visited a lot of the firehouse, but it seems like your firefighters tend to take it seriously and really tend to have a love and passion for each other. On the oral board, they love their department most of the time. That's why they're on the oral board, because they want to hire the best of the best. Sadly, most candidates never mention that they visited firehouse, maybe because they didn't, or they don't mention their passion, their love, their enthusiasm for that department, that community. So even though you may not have asked if you visit the firehouses, if you can get that out, it's going to definitely make a positive difference. Or on the flip side, as I mentioned, it can hurt you depending on how you present yourself and interact with others. Don't forget that you're now increasing your odds of getting hired, but also not getting hired, as I shared earlier. This is part of the audition, so be on your best behavior. You never know when you're going to run up or meet up with any of those people again. It's a small world, trust me. Leave it on a good note, as I'm trying to do right now. So everybody, thank you very much for the gift of your time. My contact information, my social media information. Until the next episode, be safe, be well, take care. We'll talk soon. All right, have a good day, everybody.